Hello and welcome to IMP's AEW Adventures podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Help the network out by leaving us a 5-star review, give a donation directly through Red Circle, and become one of the amazing community by joining the Social Suplex Discord. Link is in the description. Read the Social Suplex newsletter. Shout out to Trish and Tim as always, and to every person who has contributed so far. Listen to the other top-notch shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network: One Nation Radio, Keeping It Strong Style, All Things Elite, Wrestling Art with Chris Things, Trish and Sarah, Tunnel Talk, and Sam Brown's AEW Match Guide. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and this is your quick look back at the AEW week that was. 30 minutes of violence, of blood and guts. The blood cages are now, and we'll jump over to them this year in the month before Survivor Series. I'm sure for no reason. I'm sure to cause no comparison whatsoever. But as we all know, AEW's version was a complete riff on the competition's owner saying, well, we don't do that crap. We don't do the blood and guts that they do over there. You can invest in our company absolutely fine. We don't do that stuff. So then they created a match which is infinitely more violent than anything else they were doing, called the Blood and Guts, and here we are many years later and it's become a staple for the company, with the question being every single year, can they justify doing such a violent match each and every time? And now we've got both the men's and the women's aligning on the exact same day each time, so you got to try and give an exact hype. Every single year you got to force it a little bit to make it fit into it. But the first time for the women, which was huge, and the men's hitting their main event at a kind of peak for them as they entered in the aftermath of Darby Allin and Jon Moxley. So characters a really, really interesting place there. The women's was more of a kind of like novelty for it, whilst the men's was much story strong, which to be fair is how I have judged the WWE ones, where the women's one is about just a bit of fun. Just a bit of silly fun in their War Games match, and the men's one's all about the drama, and I dislike the men's, and I go into them now not really liking either of them in that one, where for me the men's one is boring and then far too melodramatic, and then the women's one is too silly and too fun, where it's just a plunder match almost in a War Games environment. I won't be reviewing this year's one, I won't be watching this year's one, so my knowledge about them is about to completely wane, so I might as well so I jumped in with my one ability to make a comment the last time I was able to make a comment. And before I jump into the main talk of the show, you've heard of the other people talking about it, but unfortunately Dickie of Chop-Tees is having to close down his store thanks to the Trump tariffs. Not going to dance about the reason for it, it's because of Trump, it's because of the tariffs. So unfortunately his store's having to close down, and he was provided for many websites that you know, and unfortunately we've also been caught up in that, which then means that if you do want to get any of our Social Suplex merch, this is the time to do it. When this month finishes, that will be it. It will be gone. So jump on over right now if you do want to pick up the final run of the Social Suplex merch under chop-tees.dicky. Very high quality stuff. I've got t-shirts I bought after buying the merch stuff from Dickie, and those t-shirts start to go and wane, whilst all the stuff I bought from Dickie is still just as good as the day I bought them. Incredibly high quality. You don't have to just buy my stuff. Everyone else here on Social Suplex, everybody's worth supporting and stuff. A huge shout out to Dickie for all that he's done for us. It feels a bit mad that we've even had this as well, and the fact that it was even such high quality merch as well. So anyway, let's jump on over. Got a lot to get through because I'm going to go through the matches in order. As I said last week, my normal format is to kind of talk about the matches but to not go to ultra detail. I don't like to recap everything that's happening. I try to more capture the narrative of what's happening and what the match was going for, and any cool spots I enjoyed. Come on, it's wrestling. It's wrestling. Sometimes it is just about the cool spot. Sometimes, and that is absolutely fine. And this is Blood and Guts. There's many cool spots. There's many moments. But overall, for me, I've had a few days just to see the aftermath of this, and this show has gone down as one of the best rated Blood and Guts nights that they've done. I thoroughly enjoyed the show overall, but you know what? Before I talk about that bollocks, let's just play a sound clip. Let's play a sound clip, and let's make it from the women's one. We'll start with the women. Go and play a sound clip from Women's Blood and Guts.
Oh, no. Not so sure what she looks like. Marina, I'm not sure that's what she has in mind. Marina, get out of the way, for crying out loud. Tony Storm, the mirror on the face of the problem.
Alright, here we go with the Blood Cage. The first ever contestants for the women being the Triangle of Madness, Mercedes Moné, Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir versus Jamie Hayter, Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, Harley Cameron, Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa. Mina Shirakawa a replacement for Queen Aminata, and Marina Shafir a replacement for Megan Bayne's normal tag team partner Penelope Ford. And my god, did both of those people become integral. What two great replacements. And in terms of the vibe of the wrestlers, what a contrast we had of the first two entrants. Spooky Goth Sky Blue and it's Willow. Just the smile on Sky Blue's face being like, yes, this is it. This is why I'm here. A photo also popped up from this week, or it got reshared, of a younger Sky Blue geeking out after meeting Dean Ambrose, and now she gets to live out her violent dreams in this match. I found it funny that there were some people kind of like, oh, why is she bleeding so early? It's like are you making them do this? Like, no, this is her thing. I would not be surprised if she even suggested this specifically. I don't know if you've seen the interview with Sky Blue talking about how much she specifically just fell in love with hardcore wrestling. So, this isn't any time to be crying about, oh, say, gotta protect the women. This is what the women want. They very much want this. Very excited to be doing this. But yes, the self-professed hardcore wrestling lover, Sky Blue, was the first to don the crimson after a whip into the cage. Just a basic little whip. Does that fit within the scaling of the violence? Normally, no, but I think they did in this match. A simple whip into the cage to sell just how dangerous this environment is. It's kind of like, well, if that's made her bleed, what else are they going to do? And it was a proper bleeder of a blading job too. The taste of iron down the right side of her face and all to begin with, and then properly all over. This ain't no blood pack, folks. And Brian Danielson and commentary saying, that's about a 7 out of 10 on the Great Kabuki scale. It just really made me laugh. Smart Julia Hart out second to have the Spooky Sisters number up, which is the way that these war games should work for me. I think they came up with a good fix for the men's one to do it differently. But for me, unless you've got a second idea to try and do something, like they seem to do for the men's one, just do what they did in the women's one, have the heels have the advantage, and have that flow for the majority of the match. It just fits this stipulation so naturally. And Julia Hart came in to immediately rip the protective cover off of the turnbuckle grip. And as soon as she did that, I was like, well, I'm sure that's just going to lead to fun, happy times. That's going to be absolutely fine. Did never come up again, so I don't quite know what they were going for. But I did really like the idea that every single woman that came out seems to have already tried to hide weapons all over the place. And I just love the goofy aspect of that, which is just kind of like a little lore world-building thing for Blood and Guts, where a load of weapons that were brought in were hidden or disguised in some manner. And in my head, I'm like, well, surely you're allowed to bring them. Like, someone comes out, Marina Shafir just comes out with a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. Like, she didn't have to hide hers. Whilst, like, Marina Shafir went to great lengths to hide her one. Tecla's, she whips off her belt and uses that as the weapon. Mercedes Moné with her belts as well. I was like, I appreciate the effort of hiding them all. The majority of the time here with the 2-on-1 was used to not find whatever was meant to be in those corner areas. In fact, they'd hidden it too well, and get those badass shots of Sky bleeding her buckets. To even things up, Holly Cameron as an Aussie blonde Tifa equal the numbers with an immediate launch chair to a bloody head. Nice and equal for the ad break goodie stompy stomps. After the advertisements, the entrance came thick and fast. Tekla in white gear with a lovely pop, white clothing for blood and guts. Uh-oh. They've understood the assignment and immediately got to belt whipping. Jamie Hayter out fast and hit Blue with a bag that seemed to break and drip tax. Like, oh no. First off, did that hurt? This got taxed in there and immediately accidentally burst on Sky Blue. Seemed to just end whatever that spot was meant to be. Kendo stick lampings forced the Spider and friends to quickly work together and at least attempt to quell. Hayter was a lass who ate quite a few launched objects to the noggin as well. Megan Bain came out with Penelope Ford, both of them with their kind of matching gear. Penelope Ford had the wings and everything. But because Ford was injured, she didn't get to take part in the match, but she was going to show off that awesome imp outfit regardless. Obviously, I'm not biased towards imp outfits. What are you talking about? I'm not biased to those at all. Bain with an awesome running boot to Hayter upon entry, before the big lass was throwing about and no-selling off of poor Hardy's offense. Chris Statlander off the top rope with a pull cue snapped over Big Bane's back was her entrance. And right into the Chris and Willow relationship, allowing the baddies back in. And big meat chance to send us into our second break with Statlander and Bane. Back from break again, and Hardy Cameron scaling. More method to get the Megasus powerbombed, and the production missed it, so oh well. Somehow Bane got busted open too. I must have missed that during the ad break. Mercedes Moné then came out with no urgency. All her titles on display on a table ringside. A sip of champagne for the PWI number 1 before entering to. Loud CEO chants for the woman. Raised the AEW championship to booze though, but cheered once again after distributing all of her titles amongst her team to use as weapons. Great bit with her checking the nails too as the penultimate woman danced on out. Just really love the visual too of all the women in there just whipping the opponents with all of Mercedes' belts. Mina Shirakawa with her barbed wire baseball bat and plenty of rhythm with Stat to get thrown at the baddies. Stat herself also painted red. There's a funny little bit as well where Mina Shirakawa did her boob shake and then Stat's just very groggy on the ropes, does a really tired low effort like, oh, I'm doing it, yay, in the background. This is really funny. Speaking of violence, Marina Shafir came out next, meaning we got our very own Rich playing during a Blood and Guts match, dragged the bleeding AEW Women's Champion out of the cage and pulled down part of the barricade to reveal it's a bed of nails. It's hokey, but I've already talked about how much I love just the hiding of weapons all over the place. It's a kind of wrestling bollocks that that I can get into. But this isn't like fully stupid wrestling bollocks. It fits a bit more into the corny. Like, oh, they've hidden all these weapons in these interesting places to get a pop when they're revealed, have they? But I love it. I love this. Plus I can read into it for Shafir, where she's already decided she's going to enter from that side of the cage. She's going to grab whoever is closest and drag them out. It just happens to be Statlander. That's with Stat a little bit on the outside before pushing her backwards to puncture her onto that bed of nails. It's not the best way to get onto a bed of nails, but they are therapeutic. It's not a weapon. It is meant to feel nice. So it's not going to be like when Kenny Omega landed on the turnbuckle pads where Yano thought was using them as a weapon, and then Kenny Omega lands on them and goes, oh, that was actually quite nice. Type of thing. Not going to be that. I think they're really effective for wrestling specifically, because you see them and your instinct reaction is to go, spikes, what the fuck? And you just have that immediate reaction. And the wrestlers then sell not wanting to fall onto it, which is heightened. It'll be like, surely you're not going to actually. So when they actually do fall onto that bed of nails, it just gets a huge guttural reaction from you. But then think about it for a second. It's fine. Like, it's absolutely fine, which makes it perfect for wrestling. Absolutely perfect for wrestling. And then we got Shafir dressing down to enter the cage barefoot. Oh, okay, I said the bed of nails would be fine. But yes, I'm sure barefoot Marina Shafir is going to be absolutely fine. I'm sure I'm going to be okay with this. Toni Storm clutching her pearls and snatching that champagne bucket. I remember the Hollywood ending. Also, I saw a lot of people saying that, oh, she's just out there with her pearl necklace, so it's just another naughty joke. Another thing, like, immediately I was like, maybe I'm too PG in my head immediately, because I went straight to the pearl clutching. I was like, oh yeah, because it's the first women's one, so it's guaranteed that online there'll be a load of people pearl clutching in bad faith. Like, that's just guaranteed. Some people had another read into it. In their world, this is a very different metaphor. It means something very different. But that champagne bucket, oh yes, I remember that Hollywood ending and the bare knuckle fighting. And for the first time of the night, blood and guts officially began. Storm immediately taped up her wrists and got to breaking up the bottle in the bucket. Straight lamps to Shafir, to Bane, double hip attacks as butts hits both downed baddies after two. The final break was used to get Shafir bleeding and a table set up in between the rings. The panning shot upon return as Blue climbed up and Hater powerbombed to table no breaky. This was what's up with the tables in this state? Whatever's up, they were not breaking. Even though it was done with force, the women are lighter. That might have been why it didn't break. No, it took 2 times for bloody Claudio. They've seen the size of him. It took 2 times for him to go through it. No wonder Sky Blue didn't break it. Mercedes got her flows off a Monet Maker kiss to Tony and backstabber to Stat, but Cameron with a big pop-it-pop revealed brass knucks for her comeuppance. Thought that was an awesome spot. Cue the upping of the ante. Tekla and Julia slipping out through the gaps in the scaffolding to grab the key and for a bunch of lasses to spill outside. Loved that. Yes, and just the setting of it being like, well, they're smaller people. Remember one year that Angelo, Ruby Soho's guy, what is his name? Matt Menard's guy, what is his name? As a Nottingham Forest fan, the name Ange is just attributed to someone else right now. So I forgot his... Anyway, yeah, him. And he was just hanging upside down. And the commentator were like, how did he get there? What's even going on? So I already knew that a more live person could slip through these, but to see both Tekla and Julie Hart do that, I just really loved that the way that played. And my gut reaction when I was watching all the spinning outside, immediately I was like, oh, 10 out of 10 stats for by Hater. Yeah, it was too good. The reason it looked brutal was because it was. Apparently she chipped a load of teeth. So, happy dental recovery. Mercedes the one to try and escape with her and Stat climbing up the bottom left. And I'm like, surely Mercedes isn't going to the roof. They were saving that for the men's. And through the table of titles, the 2 champions both crashed. Storm in the ring got to work with the shoe before pouring glass onto the floor. Elise avoided foot horror as she then drove her face into it instead. I have no idea where Shirakawa got busted, but Jesus, the spot that came after looked great. Storm with a big mirror teasing the running butt, but Shafir launched the thing mid-charging and glass crashed everywhere in an awesome spectacle. And then we got our foot spot. Yay! Thank you, Marina. Thank you so much. Shafir stomped her own foot into the glass so she could kick Shirakawa. Tony locked up by the spooky gals, forced to watch Shafir choking out Mina as Bane whipped over and over with the TBS title. Love loses again in AEW with all the baddies clapping in applause. Aside from out of it Mercedes, crashing the table, never to be seen again. Storm covered her Mina, protecting her love from further harm. But what a match, what an incredible match. I've definitely not called some spots there because I don't like to recap everything. There was a lot that happened in this match, and I thought it was all great. So many of them bleeding too. I seem to miss when a lot of them got cut somehow. No idea with Stat or Mina. You cut to them and suddenly they're bleeding. It's like, oh, okay, I've just missed this. But really loved the escalation. Felt like it was all building, and then it hits that mirror spot, and the smashing of the mirror is the absolute perfect time to just have the match just fall apart. Just at that point, the goodies are just out of it. And Shafia's entrance really did signal the things just getting a little bit more like, that's when the nail bed comes out. That's when someone's barefoot in a blood and guts match. Like, that's not a good thing. The day Mike Bailey's in blood and guts, I fear for the man. But I really, really enjoyed this match. It was so fun. Absolutely flew by, because these blood and guts matches, these War Games matches, they are long, and there's a lot of time just kind of waiting for the next entrance at points. It very much got to a point where I was perfectly happy to kind of skip through the ad break, like watching the odd thing that might happen, which might explain why I missed where people got cut up. Just that during the ad break, not a lot happened, so that's where if you've got any critique about pacing problems with the blood and guts match, it's when it's in an ad break. And sometimes I've not even noticed it was an ad break, because I'm making notes and doing things, so sometimes I'm just gonna miss when they cut to ads. But then I'll notice the pace is like real slow, and I'm just like, yeah, we're not on air, are we? Like, we're absolutely not on air. But these blood and guts matches, they're just so much fun. Personally, in terms of the stuff that AEW offers, I find Anarchy in the Arena to be the most fun. When I finish an Anarchy in the Arena match, I just have a smile on my face, and I have that internal feeling of, God, I just love wrestling. Like, routinely, those matches give me that feeling. Blood and Guts doesn't routinely give me that, but I feel like this match here specifically definitely did. Like, what a start for the women's Blood and Guts to very much deliver on the violence, and very much just to deliver on such an exciting match. Like, it never fell into plunder stuff. But for me, the absolute best thing, which I've not really done much commentary on during the match, during my coverage itself, but for me, the absolute best thing is everything that spirals out of this match. So many notes. Like, I touched on it a little bit. We got things like, who's going to challenge Statlander after Monet if Statlander does win? We've got a few things set up here. We've got Shafir, we've got Bane. With the women's tag team tournament, we've got all the different dynamics there with Tony Storm and Mina, which I'll go into a little bit more when we go to Collision as well, because they directly talk about that stuff. And to be fair, Collision did a really good job of just making you feel the consequences of blood and guts. Like, these are the certain things that have escalated because of that match. So not only was it a match that was just really exciting to watch, but it made you feel great about the division, because there's so many different things spiraling off of it. So round of applause for everybody involved. That was a great edition of the blood and guts match. And the photos afterwards of just all of the women just looking absolutely destroyed, and then it's a photo of Mercedes' hand with a taped up fingernail. Like, yes, perfect. And of course the photo of Puppet Monet. That was look at all these devastated, destroyed people, and one of the photos is of the puppet. Like, yes. Yeah, but anyway, before we get to the men's blood and guts, we did have a Falls Count Anywhere match. A nice break from the violent madness with a Hangman no DQ stip. It's like, were they going for the most violent episode of wrestling television? Like, yep, that's a fittingly normal breather, isn't it? Hangman Page versus Powerhouse Hobbs. Both lads ripped turnbuckle pads off to display their intent and to tease going into them. There was something funny about Hobbs' barricade bumping the man as a man dressed as a Christmas elf watched on. I just found that visual funny. And a match where the apron spots were even more deadly, reinforced for the blood cage. So they're the hardest part of the ring, but this time they're even harder. A cage has to sit on top of them. Yeah, sure, it's camp to really amp that up, but like, come on, it's wrestling. We can get camp. Like, it's fine. Yes, reinforced for the blood cage, weaponized by Beef William. A slam onto the announce desk gave Schiavone a mighty death stare, but bloody hell, the world's strongest slam onto the steel steps after looked and sounded bloody painful. Great little spot during the ad break with hangers going to buckshot in between the rings. So Hobbs just hit him and the cowboy rebounded off the other ring's ropes for another. Please, sir, not anymore. A Jesus Christ bouncing bump ringside for Hobbs was going for an announce desk bomb, but instead got powered out and crashed hard off her back body. And that sent us into crowd walkie times. Brawling through the fans and delivering us our table spot, a charging Hangman lifted and spine busted through the wood before climbing up the first level. So much trust from Page to tease the slam off. The Powerhouse Man with the groggy stance ready to fall, and Hangman took his boot off to do a funny little run down the stairs and wallop Hobbs into the fall, crashing through the electric table. Oh, more wrestling bollocks. More nonsense. I love wrestling. A spark of electric and a big old box lights flickered too. Utter nonsense. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I have listened to Rich and James' coverage of this on my Nation Radio. They were just like, oh man, this was so cool. This was so cool. It was awesome. And I'm here being like, utter nonsense. Other nonsense, completely silly. Still absolutely loved it. With just the lights flickering as well to sell it and all. I'm just like, I love wrestling sometimes. After the match, Shibata and Joe were in wait in the rings, called for the cage to be lowered, and I cheered the clever way to get the cage down and cut the time in between this and the main event. I was like, oh, that's really clever. You got a narrative way to get the thing down so you don't have to wait as long. But there was another segment beforehand. So applause immediately redacted. You can just switch the segments around. Like, people are coming down from the Blood and Guts match. Like, could maybe do the FTR one with the Ricky Dragon stuff. Do that maybe like there. Do it there. Then you got the cage and the lowering and it making sense. Nah, not that. We just lift it back up again. Do a whole segment. I mean, we'll get to that segment. Eddie and Hook out for the save before the steel was lowered. And a promo cut from the ring with the cage lowered down. Joe, if you wanted me in a steel cage, all you had to do was ask. Making their full gear title match a steel cage affair in a promise of more AEW violence. Not long before, we're having a blood cage main event. So we've got a night of violence here and then you're promising more cage violence on pay-per-view. Plus AEW make their steel cage matches feel special. They whip it out so rarely, and when they do, it is a unique kind of violence. Like, Full Gear itself has got Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay in, like, my god, that match is so good. In my mind, I'm like, there's no way that Hangman and Joe can match that, right? I don't know, they'll definitely bloody try. I mean, to be fair, Hangman's got his own history in a cage, so I feel like, narratively, character-wise, they could easily sucker me in by Joe can maybe tempt him to go to that violence he did with Swerve. Anyway, onto the extra bits. There's only two this week because I'm going to do there's a parking lot segment and then there's the FTR stuff. So it was the FTR segment is weird. So anyway, extra bits. Don Callis' boys attacked Jungle Express in the parking lot. The man himself suggested to the Bucks that with Kenny Omega returning next week, it would make the perfect time for the Jacksons to join the family. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the perfect save to dodge a Ric Flair appearance. Thanked TBS, pointed out a sign in the crowd with the Greensboro Mount Rushmore. Started a wee reminiscing, not going to it particularly quickly either, before FTR interrupted. It's like, okay, here we go. The segment can actually begin. Big boos for Stokely, with Ricky the Old Man Steamboat doing his unique improvised riffing. Like, if you're gonna have a guy riff, maybe make sure he's not like in his 70s, because the brain doesn't whirl as quickly as it used to. The information's there, but as my mum put it, it's less a mind palace and more of a mind shed. Like, the lights coming through from the outside, the wood's kind of creaky. Like, the stuff's there, but it's not particularly housed well. Stokely asked for his favourite wrestler to be ringside for the tag match. Have you got Macho Man's number? Dax and Cash did reminisce on behalf of their former mentor/trainer. Dax, with the more personal relationship, amped up into going forehead to forehead, putting his hands on the steamboat, which sounds like a euphemism. It's really not. Slowly weighed his options. He would have whooped their asses several years back, but no, he's about to turn 73, which is the perfect call for the baddie beating, and he saves grandmas, but they save grandpas. It's Bro Dido with the save, sending the baddies out of the ring, and the segment comes to an end. You know, it meandered. It meandered in the way an older brain can. You're listening to a story, you're interested, but as you're listening, you're trying to maintain the main point of the story when a certain detail just gets kind of hung upon. You're like, was it this? No, it was that, wasn't it? You're trying to remember the main story in your head. It's like, okay, this story's now taking a long time to tell. I need to get you back on track. Like, it was a segment that just needed being pulled back on track. When FDR's music hit, it's like, oh, thank God. Here we go. If anything, if you do want to remember what it was like to talk to a grandparent, watch this segment. The feeling you get watching this segment is the feeling you had whilst talking to your grandparents. For people in their 30s, it's just like, it's a lovely remembering. Just a lovely little bit to be like, oh yeah, that's what it was like. And onto the main event, the men's Blood and Guts. Darby Allin and the Conglomeration Boys versus the Death Riders. A great tease with Mox's music playing, but it was Dickhead U2 who came out first, throwing the poor Philly boy to the wolves with the goodies having the entrance advantage. So first off, as soon as I saw this, I'm like, I feel like there's an idea here. Like, some form of narrative is going to be building. Because yes, the goodies have the advantage, but Wheelie's going to eat shit. Tactically, he's going to eat shit. What's going to happen here? And what a flying dropkick from Darby Allin to start us off. Just Wheelie gets to the stairs to enter the cage, and Darby Allin just immediately dropkicks him flying backwards. It's like not even in the cage yet, and he's eating shit. Eventually into the cage, but time was killed walking about, so there wasn't actually that long left until the next fellow came out. Wheeler was our first to bleed too, after Darby kind of rubbed his thumbtack glued skateboard onto the forehead. It's like, yay, we're starting off with lovely times. Orange Cassidy then came out with his backpack with him, slowly entering, tying his jeans, and then snapped the shades to show his intent, and then used them to hit the head of Yuta with the already bloody head. So yes, he was actually out to be, energetic and useful. And in the backpack was a lovely chain. Yay! Skateboard Olay made Wheeler cry. And that's when we get Daniel Garcia in his hoodie and gloves, before delivering us a few minutes of baddie stompy times. It was a hilarious comedy villain spot with the chain, whipped Darby into the ropes, who just springboarded backwards onto the chain and sent both the baddies running into each other. Like pure cartoon comedy nonsense. Mark Briscoe's music played, but but no Mark Briscoe came out. Excalibur asked Renee specifically to report what happened, and in a very badly staged wrestling-y kind of way, being like, oh, I think I've heard word that he's back here, and they go into the room and immediately just find him, finding Mark in the dressing room, just clutching his stomach in pain post-beating. But he's strong out instead. Not much time to work with the advantage before Claudio strode on out with purpose to launch Roddy headfirst into a corner props chair. Full choke Cassidy and wheelbarrow-held Darby both span around with the swing at the same time. And then Crash Test Dummy Darby got tossed across the rings. But Garcia pushing Allen Upper into a Castagnoli uppercut actually looked the most brutal. It's just sort of like it's like a spring up and a sudden stop. Kyle O'Reilly equaled things out, but it became clear there would be a permanent advantage once Mox came out as the Death Rider's final man. But then he didn't come out last. Mox the penultimate man to keep their dominance, and commentary immediately questioning this tactically, like, why is he coming out now? Why is Mox not waiting? And on commentary they did sell it, being like, well, the Death Riders are on top right now, so if Mox comes out here, he can just basically sweep up the rewards. He can use all of the hard work of the other Death Riders, and he can just basically feed off of that via a fork. Did I cheesily script that, being like, if you say something about him feeding off the stuff, then you can bring up the fork bit? Maybe. Immediately stabbed Kyle into a bloody mess before puncturing Roddy too. Like, my god, the mess that Kyle O'Reilly was in. If Sky Blue was the noteworthy bleeder from the first match, Kyle O'Reilly, Jesus Christ. And that Darby backdrop onto the chain earlier, a perfect setup for Mox to stab him in the back when he tried it on Mox. It's like, oh yes, he set it up and it paid off. And it's fair to say, Mox holding a bucket with smashed things inside it is far scarier than when Tony Storm was the one holding it, and continuity with the remnants of the mirror used in the first match, then used here to work over Kyle, before pouring the smashed bits onto the mat to drag Darby over for them for the ad break. Orange Cassidy cut open, but it was O'Reilly the one just bleeding buckets. Crazy Darby climbed up to do his drop hanging off the inside of the ceiling, and into the final man pack with the permanent advantage we swung. Stompy stomp until Briscoe finally came out, equipped with all sorts of tools to enact his fun, but the man 'tis weak after the beating. Orange opened the toolbox, and it had actual tools in it. The ultimate swerve. Ultimate swerve in wrestling. You're expecting there to be some kind of gimmicky thing, or it's a toolbox that's been used to house one specific weapon. No, it's a toolbox. It's like he just grabs a toolbox from backstage, and it had tools in it. Because he's just grabbed a toolbox. What do you think's going to be in it? And Mark Briscoe climbed up high onto the top of the cage, a rope and hook to have a collection of favourite chairs sent up to him, and a chair battle atop the cage. Yuta walloped. Briscoe teased the fall and into the final ad break with Shivani, happy to have a second to take a breather. The ad break wasn't calmer per se. Garcia wrenched O'Reilly's already cauliflower ear with an actual wrench. Mox was donning the crimson. Briscoe bloodied on top of the cage too. Then, having returned from ad break, we got a lovely wide shot of Pac holding a table with Mark and Wheeler having fun on top of the cage. It's like, what's Pac doing outside of this table? What's going on here? Jay Driller onto the pile of chairs on top of the cage. Pac was ready in wait when Briscoe climbed on down. Darby's making the save when Nottingham! Gabe Kidd struck with the taser and dragged Allen away. Full circle moment for Cassidy as he put his hands in his pockets and Mox stapled them. It's like, oh yes, ultimate blood and guts moment. And an immediate cut to Pac dragging Darby up above the entrance tunnel by a belt around the neck. Like, what's happening here? Two tables set up for a crash. But then Gabe Kidd fetched the lighter fluid, fire tables, and Pac launched Darby into them. No protection, just his little camo shorts with them now on fire as he rolled about onto a protective towel quickly. It's like, oh, and so many photos and videos and slow-mo videos that have come out from this spot look amazing. Kudos to you. Do I give kudos to Darby? Is him being his normal crazy self worth the kudos? That incredible spot. Utter chaos for the close. Tables galore for Yuta, Garcia, and Castagnoli. Jesus Christ. There we go. Through the table eventually. The last few weeks coming back to bite Mox. His ultimate fear with the ankle lock locked in from Kyle. Mox tapping out again into the glass with a bloody Kyle getting the biggest win of his career. Amazing match and just such perfect character work for the Death Riders. Like I'll talk about in Collision, but Pac is becoming the guy who can be relied upon to do the mission he entered the match set out to do. He is the guy that can be relied for that. Mox is in a state where he's just in his own head and he's continually losing, and it is evidently getting to him, and he's trying to just give an air of a different kind of feel, but it's not working. So I really like the turn that the Death Riders are currently on. Another really fun match. I do feel like the beginning portions of this one, whilst I could see something happening, I wasn't as engrossed in the early portions one as I was in the women's one. But once this got underway, I really enjoyed both Blood and Guts. Both of them are something special this year. Both of them have stuff just spinning out of them where I'm really interested. We've had years before where Blood and Guts has happened and I'm like, I mean, it was fun, it was fine, but that wasn't this case this year. I came out buzzing. It seems like in the days afterwards that people were also just left buzzing off of Blood and Guts, it wasn't just me. It seems to have hit home with a lot of people. So congratulations, stipulation worked. And 100% get ready to then be mentally comparing it to the PG version of War Games. These are violent matches by definition. That was one of some of the funniest part of the reception to this, because obviously you're going to get a lot of bad faith takes of just being like, wrestling's meant to be for kids, like, why are they putting this on television? It's far too violent. It's like, they literally advertised a match called Blood and Guts. Like, what are you expecting? That's why it kind of comes across as bad faith. So yeah, it feels incredibly bad faith because they were not subtle about the advertising of this match. So a very strong year for Blood and Guts for AEW this time. A huge shout out to everybody involved in both matches. My personal favourite was the women's, but I was buzzing after both of them. They gave me that feeling, even that warm tummy feeling. I didn't get the, I just love wrestling. Like, I didn't get that feeling, but that's reserved for some like very Anarchy in the Arena and, I don't know, specific Will Ospreay main events, stuff like that, or Bryan Danielson main event. Like, very, very rarely do I just have that feeling of like I've seen something special. Like after watching Swerve versus Hangman, where I was just like, God, I love wrestling. That was incredible. This is why I watch the art form. Anyway, so yeah, as I've gone through Blood and Guts in detail, for me, I've gone for quite a while, so this feels like it's going to be quite a long edit, so apologies to feature me. So let's just jump over to Collision and get through a standard night of wrestling, which feels weird to be covering. Yeah, no rest for the wrestling. You bled and got a mirror smashed into your face just a few days ago. Get out there, ducky. Tony's coin don't come for free. How you go again? Earn that money. So anyway, let's jump on over to Erie, Pennsylvania. Surely would have been a good place to go for Halloween. But anyway, let's jump on over for Erie, Pennsylvania, and we'll start with the Death Riders versus Jay Lethal, Tommy Billington, and Adam.
The other way, right into this brutalizer.
A brutalizer is on!
Oh, good night. Good night.
Jay Lethal! Can he get out of this?
Easy money, baby.
He says yes, he said yeah, verbal trap.
Garcia choking Priest unconscious on the floor.
Garcia immediately threw fists at Daddy Magic, completely losing his cool, but it gave Jon Moxley a free seat to commentate in replacement. Like, see, he is the best AEW dad, can be always relied upon, full of positive reinforcement too for both his team in their loss and the AEW locker room in their victory, until the crowd were unnecessarily mean to him and taunted him, but we'll get to that later. This opening match was a wee trios affair to showcase the Death Riders' struggles as of late, but it is only Mox who actually loses in the end, and Wheeler Yuta. But Pac doesn't lose, and Pac here was on fire against all three of the goodies, pulled Priest in the way of the lethal injection. Garcia then kept Billington busy at ringside as the Rings of Saturn locked Jay in for the submission. After the match, the Geordie Dividers can actually rely upon Grab the Mic, gloated about the joyous magnum opus of watching Darby Allin burn. I'm sure he'll be wanting some petty revenge. Well, that's no skin off my ballsack, you little freak. Like, old Pac. Glad to see you haven't changed. In his own unique way, he challenged the wee Fireboy to a match at Full Gear, and I now realise that nickname I gave him after he came up with the flamethrower. Very different connotations now after he was set on fire. And swinging into the backstage bits, Josh Alexander locked an ankle lock on poor Michael Nakazawa and cut Jim on Kenny Omega ahead of the man's return of this coming Wednesday. Toni Storm and Mina were interviewed by Lexi. Mina in full hurty days, still with a bandage around her head. You gain admission to a film, a cinema verite. It stars 5 shit-ass slop-tarts and 2 horror show whores with a lust for vengeance who will love-bomb the crap out of you. Anytime, any place, the show must go on. Don't ask God for mercy. He's a big fan of our work. No one promos like Toni Storm. Like, yes, when she was discovering her character, those first few months were a little rough, but she bloody found it. She bloody well found it. And now being able to do little promos like that, just like in the aftermath of a Blood and Guts, to hit a promo with that many good bits in it. It's like, no one promos like her. And finally, Kyle O'Reilly and the rest of the conglomeration cut a bloody promo in the doctor's room after Blood and Guts. His words getting to Mox more than anything, along with the fans chanting, "You tapped out," as Mox got up, cut a response, challenging O'Reilly to a match anytime, any place. Completely gotten to, and storming on out, giving the crowd 2 fingers before he disappeared. Really great stuff. But he did commentate for like a good long portion of this show. He didn't just turn up for like one match and then they did that. He was there for the majority of the show on commentary, which then meant, yes, we got Mox on commentary for MXM, and it was glorious. But before that, we've got Mark Briscoe versus Mark Davies. We had Kyle versus Kyle. Big Ozzy Davies got to launch Briscoe around ringside and chop a chicken farmer around. Oof, I could feel that in my nipple. Complimented Papa Mox in his night of positivity. After the break, Briscoe got his amping up. A full chop battle as they both stood showing off their strength. There was plenty of room to let Davies remind us how great he is. Also, kudos to Briscoe because Davies really did come out of this looking great, in spite of eating the froggy bow and losing to the TNT Championship #1 contender. We'll talk about that in a second, because first we have got the MXM casting call. Jon Moxley on commentary for this was a gold mine. Of course he likes them, they bring the intensity. And like him, I also thought Taya was wearing quite the hat. This week was a singles match with Tay mellow, out for a wee match with the big hat lady so that she could hit said lady and said big hat flying. Is this faction the actual best loser faction ever? Like, I mean, I'm pretty certain they're my favourite. Like, all the WWE ones were just annoying, but this one is actually great. A huge part of it is they themselves, but also I just really love the additional note of not knowing what kind of match it is. It could be a singles match, it could be a tag match, trios, mixed, whatever. So you really are rolling the dice for just any kind of match. It's just exciting, it's just fun. It means I said this weeks ago, where it's like, you can give this legs because it's going to get a wide variety of matches. And maybe one time they'll eventually win, but you don't want them to. Mansoor's a dickhead. He's an absolute knob. And he comes out all confident, cutting a great promo the next week, again, making you feel like he's a knob. Like, it's almost like he didn't have a loss, but then every time he eats shit, yeah, they're so good. Then Marina Shafir jumped, and we got the real reason why this match took place. Tony Storm out for the chokeout save, no time wasted, swiftly into a pile driver and pose over Shafir. Mox did not see that coming, but he liked it. Like, if you show you're capable of violence, Mox is going to like you. All good. And Papa Mox is informing us that it's going to be all good. Like, Marina Shafir has a neck like a Mustang. Later in the show, Tay got a wee amped up interview with Lexi, promising that TJ will end what Bane and Shafir started. And now to continue the other thought, I realised I've had to do a tangent on the Mox MXM stuff to then talk about the Mark match, and I've had to shelve the Mark match to talk about MXM Mox. And now here we are back again with more Mark Visty times. The TNT Championship, Kyle Fletcher versus Scorpio Sky. A wee title defence in our third segment in a row featuring an Aussie. An additional count on the defence tally ahead of Full Gear. What you up to, Tony? Trying to convince me the champion might lose? Well, fuck you, it's working. You're doing your job. After the break, Scorpio jumped off the apron with a head scissors into an oof bump on the back for Kyle, before a big old tope and sky high bomb. The challenger had his moment, but this was nowhere near the danger that last week's Ace Austin dance posed. In this story of questioning if the champion is biting more than he can chew. They certainly tried though. Sky spiked Fletcher onto his noggin with an apron DDT, then again jumping off the corner to drive the Aussie into the mat. Hell of a driver from Kyle rocked Scorpio, then that high corner kick and brainbuster combination for the win. That's it, Tony. Give me that shit. Get that table nice and set for Briscoe to kick out of Full Gear. I'm all ready for it. Speaking of, Mark Briscoe was out with the rest of Scorpio's faction to make the save. The Kentucky fella grabbed a mic, promising to defeat the champion at Full Gear. One more additional notch to the match. Kyle telling Mark that when he wins, he'll be breaking the defense number record for the TNT Championship. The last 2 weeks of defenses suddenly make sense as the champion gets one last personal motivation. And Rio and Alex Windsor versus Hyen and Maya World. A smart leaning into the support of Hyen and World coming out of the whole Nixon and Elise thing. I guess a quick note on Maestro from last week, where I recorded it like an hour before Nixon and Neil did their live stream where they tried to explain themselves, and it was like a day before Sean Massap came out with like more information. So I was just like, by the time I'd actually gotten the edit out, I was just like, I mean, I'll leave my words in because I feel like without these specific details, like overall, like I felt like I still hit on it fine, and because I didn't give an opinion, it doesn't become outdated really. But I was just like, yeah, immediately out of date by the time I've even got it out. You know, it's on it, it's fine. But other people have talked about this, and this show's already long enough. But AEW didn't lean into Hyen and Maya World too hard. Like, let's not be silly. They're still the jobbers for the stars. Like, come on, they're against ratings Rio. But nice to see the support for them echoed by getting a second showing. Windsor chopped foes and threw a small Japanese lady at them. A good tag partner setting up said lady to get the ad break outside dive as well. Ropey rope speedy run for a diving lariat from Windsor. Drop World during the spin to accidentally invent a new variant of the Blue Thunder Bomb. The tag finisher looked awesome though. Lariat with Windsor, with Rio following with a crucifix pin. Storm and Shirakawa on the Tron after to apologise for the beating and the shitting in their handbags they'll be doing as they face them next week. Just after blood and guts. They're quite motivated. And then there's the main event. FTR, Roosh and Sammy Guevara versus Bandido, Jet Speed and Juice Robinson. An 8-man promotional main event for 2 Full Gear dancers, the tag title match and national championship gauntlet. And yeah, of course it was a blast. AEW really cemented a groove with these multi-man matches over the summer. They then proceeded to do too many of them, but the current rhythm of serving us the odd buffet like this is more than a welcome meal. The juice set loose and Robinson continues his own decent backing down into that unique charisma. FTR, the cheeky scoundrels. Jet Speed, your injection of energy. And the Los Facción Ingobernable boys, the cocky showman. Just all made for a lovely time. And then Bandido tagged in. That's kind of how I felt with the match. All of them danced their little ways, and then Bandido tagged in, and he just got shown off to be absolutely awesome. Everybody, make sure that Bandido looks good. And they did. Bandido's frog splash kicked out of, forcing the baddie team to properly work together and work on the Ring of Honor champion 4-on-1. But he's just too good. Bandido. Right before Rush tossed him overhead into the turnbuckles. Perfectly timed crowd chant. I don't know if they're planning a Bandido versus Rush Ring of Honor title match, but they sure gave the room for the two to dance, with McGuinness getting all excited about the duo on commentary. commentary. Every man got their hit in, but at ringside in a complete match breakdown, and a different kind of shatter as Bailey did his backflip double knees, but that had moved, and smashing into the apron his knees went. The baddies though unable to capitalise, and Roosh was alone with Bandido for the 21-20 plex. Nothing crazy, just a really entertaining multi-man party like only AEW does. But yeah, that brings me to the end of Collision. Just a fun little come down, I guess, from Blood and Guts. Continuing that run of like, it's not the end of the world if you don't watch Collision, but I found that I do get far more out of AEW now that I am routinely watching the show. I feel like far more invested, and Collision just does a really good job of just making sure you stay invested in all of these characters and all these different plays that they're spinning. It's really effective at that. Any question is, yeah, but where do I fit it in my schedule? That's easy. I stopped watching WWE. so for some, maybe that's not easy, but as I said, because I felt it in my stomach being like, yeah, I'm done. Suddenly it made a decision to have the space to watch Collision far easier. But I've been really enjoying AEW so much more since I've actually routinely been watching it. But yeah, just like a fun aftermath show after Blood and Guts. Almost like your aftermath of a pay-per-view show where you're just reminded of what storylines are flowing after the absolute chaos of the Blood and Guts violence. Just a little reminder, being like, by the way, we've got a pay-per-view coming up next weekend, so here's all this flow. And that does bring me to the end of this week's review, with me next week doing Dynamite and then Full Gear, so that'll be another long one. But yes, I really enjoyed this week of AEW. Collision was the perfect kind of come down from the Blood and Guts, and then just a reminder of what we're flowing into with Full Gear. It's a perfect kind of flow carrying show. And I thought this was a great year for Blood and Guts. Felt absolutely buzzing coming out of both matches. And that's why I kind of said, like, in some years I've not felt the most loving of the Blood and Guts stipulation, but both matches this year I had that feeling. So yes, a really strong year for Blood and Guts this time. Not just the creativeness within the match, but all the stuff spiraling out of it. Just a really strong year. It doesn't hurt that the matches are incredibly fun as well. Anyway, thank you for listening, liking, engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciated, never taken for granted. I'll be back this time next week to talk about Dynamite and then Full Gear as we finally enter our closing run for the AEW calendar year. What did you make of Blood and Guts? Do let me know. Also, if I've missed your favourite spot from the match, because there are so many spots in this match, just also let me know. And with that, I bid you adieu. Ta-ra.